Whenever discussions of the evolution of presidential power and authority come up, the Louisiana Purchase is always a good initial starting point. Keeping in mind that Jefferson strenuously opposed Alexander Hamilton's inherent powers argument over the Neutrality Proclamation. Once Jefferson was in power, he found himself confronted with a deal he couldn't refuse, right? Napoleon, for a time, had contemplated the idea of building a French empire in North America to contest British interests in the hemisphere. His hopes were dashed by French failure to put down a massive slave revolt in Saint Domingue, which is today Haiti. That this island was of strategic, importance to the French aspirations in North America. It would have been a major staging point. It was compounded by horrific losses of French troops attempting to put down the rebellion, due both to the rebellion and to massive spread of yellow fever. And so Napoleon decided to cut his losses and sell to the United States. He certainly wasn't going to sell to Great Britain, and he had no interest in selling to Spain. So the question is, where in the Constitution lay the authority to negotiate and execute such a deal? The framers didn't anticipate such an eventuality. Jefferson didn't believe that such authority existed and actually wanted to pass a constitutional amendment, but was persuaded that the opportunity would be lost in the time it took to create the constitutional authority, so he just took it, right? And as was often the case in the day, because of oceans separating people in authority from their representatives, they went ahead and just kind of did things improvisationally. They used a treaty to make the deal, which had already been negotiated before James Monroe, who was Jefferson's envoy, was actually given the formal authority to undertake such a negotiation. Jefferson's rationale sounded a lot like Lincoln's justification for the various violations of constitutional niceties that he undertook during the Civil War. The executive, in seizing the initiative occurrence, which so much advances the good of their country, have done an act beyond the Constitution. The legislature, in casting behind them metaphysical subtleties and risking themselves like faithful servants, must ratify and pay for it, and throw themselves on their country for doing for them unauthorized what we know they would have done for themselves had they been in a situation to do it. So, of course, as history would note, Jefferson submitted himself to the electorate in 1804 and won a huge victory. The Louisiana Purchase would mark one of the first significant assertions of the president's prerogative powers, and Jefferson's reelection suggests that the public approved. But imagine if Jefferson's first assertion of extra constitutional prerogative power had been to attempt something that proved deeply unpopular or was judged to be a kind of corrupt self-dealing. Where would executive authority be then? That's something to think about.